just like the player. Okay, so how do we destroy the rocks? When a rock and a bullet collide, we want to create a particle effect and then change the rock. So if it's a big rock, it becomes a small rock, and if it's already a small rock, then it respawns as a big rock. This way your game never ends because you never run out of any rocks. So let's go into the obj rock object and here add a new collision event with the obj bullet object. This event will run every time the rock is in contact with a bullet, so you can program what happens when they interact with each other. Now in the event, we first of all want to destroy an instance, but the instance we want to destroy is the bullet, not the rock, so we apply it to the other instance. The other instance in this case is the bullet because that's what you're colliding with. After that, we are creating an explosion effect above all objects, so we can see it, and it's created at the rock's location because the rock is the one being destroyed. The size of this is medium and the color is white. Then we are again changing the direction of the rock to a random value so it moves in a different direction after being shot. Right now, if you run the game, you can shoot at a rock and see the particle effect. So what's remaining to program now is how this changes into a small rock. Back in the same event, let's add a condition that checks if this is a big rock by checking its sprites. If it is, then we want to change it into a small rock by changing if it is, then we want to change it into a small rock by its sprites. If it is, then we want to change it into a small rock by changing its sprites, and then we copy that instance so we get two small rocks in the end. Small rock by changing its sprites, and then we copy that instance so we get 2 small rocks in the end. Then we add an else. This will run if the previous condition is false, meaning the rock is small. And after the else, we add another condition to check if the number of rocks in the room is less than 12. We are doing this to make sure that there aren't too many rocks in the game, making it too hard. So we are limiting the number of rocks that we can respawn. So in that case, we are going to set the sprites of the rock to the big rock, and then we are changing the X or the horizontal position to -100. So we send it outside the room so it can re-enter again as a new rock. Only we know it's not really a new rock instance, but the player doesn't know that. Now finally at the end, I'm going to add another else, and this will run if both of the previous conditions are false, meaning the rock is small and there are already 12 rocks in the room. So in that case, we just destroy the instance, so it just stops existing and doesn't respawn or do anything else. Okay, so that was a large event, but we got through it. You can now run the game and destroy the rocks. And basically keep playing forever because the rocks keep respawning. That is our second step finished, and we have a fun and playable game. The problem is that the player can never lose. So what we need to work on is the collision between the player and the rock and how that defeats the player. Let's go back into the player object and here add a collision event with the rock. So when the player collides with a rock, this is the event that runs. In the event, let's first create a firework effect above all objects at the player's location. It'll be a medium-sized effect, and then we destroy the player instance itself. Finally, after destroying the player, we're going to set an alarm. So that'll be alarm 0, and we are setting it to 120. This means that the alarm 0 event will run 120 frames after this event running, so that's 2 seconds. But this by itself won't work because we are destroying the player, and an instance that doesn't exist can't run an alarm. So instead we apply this to OBJGame. Can't run an alarm. So instead we apply this to OBJGame, and that object is going to run the alarm for us. Now when the alarm event does run, we want the game to restart, so let's open OBJGame. Here let's add the alarm 0 events. Now when the alarm event does run, we want the game to restart, so let's open OBJGame. Here let's add the alarm 0 events, and in the event, let's run this function to restart the room. This should do it, but it won't work right now because OBJGame isn't actually in the room. So let's open the room. Make sure the instances layer is selected and then place OBJGame in the room. It doesn't matter where you put it, it just needs to be in the room. So run the game, run into a rock, you will lose, and 2 seconds later, the room will restart. So we now have a game loop. You can play, you can lose, you can play again, and so on. And we're at a point where you can say that the game is finished. But it's actually not that rewarding because you can't see how many rocks you've destroyed. So before we finish off the video for good, let's quickly add a score system. Let's open obj game and here add the create events. Here let's create a variable called points and set it to to 0. Now before we increase this value when you destroy a rock, let's make sure that this is drawn on the screen. So go ahead and add the draw GUI event. This is where you can draw anything directly to the screen, so it acts like a HUD. So I'll use this function to draw the points value to the screen at 10 by 10. So in the game it'll appear on screen, but we haven't programmed it to change yet. For that, let's go into obj rock. And open its collision event. With obj bullet. This is where you destroy a rock, so it makes sense that you would also get the score here. So here let's add this to increase the points variable by 50 to give the player some score. But of course this variable was not created in the rock object. It was created in obj game. That object owns this variable, so we're going to mention the name of that object before the variable itself, and this is how we can actually change that variable. And that should do it. Run the game, and when you destroy a rock, you get some score. also get the score here. So here let's add this and programmed it to change yet. For that, let's go into obj rock and open its collision event with obj bullet. This is where you destroy a rock, so it makes sense that you would also get the score here.